I believe we are set. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first public presentation of Next Generation Railroaders, our first public programming. So happy to have you with us if you're watching this live on this Tuesday evening of March 4th. But if not, welcome to have you, and so happy to be engaging in what we set out to do, which is exploring the educational opportunities and the growth opportunities that exist within rail preservation for the purposes of developing organizations and recruiting and retaining volunteers, employees, and especially young people. Welcome to the conversation and welcome to our organization, which, as we're embarking more on these public presentations, which one of our other board members is going to talk a little bit more about shortly before we get to our presentation with Ed, you're going to learn more about us. We're going to learn more about ourselves and how we want to carry out our educational mission. Of course, we encourage you to follow us on our social channels. Links to everything are at nextgenrr.org. I'm pleased to be helming this organization as president with a wonderful team of board members, including Rick Kafuri from the B&M Historical Society, Hannah Brooks, from New England Steam most recently, Leah Lane from the Station Inn in Pennsylvania, and Holly. Uh, the things when lists come up. And of course, the person who's going to be introducing our guest speaker today, Casey Palumbo, who joins us. Casey, thank you for joining us tonight to kick off and talk a little bit about the programming that we're going to be doing over the coming months through NGR.
Yeah, Nick, thanks for having me introduce the first one. Welcome everyone to our first webinar series. We're going to be doing these monthly to kind of look into and explore rail preservation through different lenses and different opportunities that are available that you may not know even existed in the industry. And kicking us off for the first one tonight, he's a brakeman, conductor, dispatcher, the current general passenger agent and board member for the WW&F. Please welcome Ed.
Hi, everybody. Thanks. Oh my goodness, what an honor to be a part of this. I just can't. I really am just so delighted. I look so much up to people like Nick and a lot of everyone that he mentioned on the NGR board are people that are just inspirational to old geezers like me. To just to take the torch of rail preservation and carry it forward. So kudos to you guys for what you guys do. Like I say, it's really encouraging to me to see that stuff coming forward and to be the number one on this little journey here of webinars. I did get a sneak peek at some of the ones that are some of the people that are coming up proposed for the next ones, and to be in that same circle of people is they obviously don't know me very well. Let's just put it that way. So anyhow, I was asked to kind of talk about rail preservation 101, what it takes to make a good volunteer. So these are just some of the tips and things that I've picked up along the track about how to get going in rail preservation, how I got started, and then some of the things on kind of do's and don'ts and that sort of thing. So I hope this is entertaining and informal. There will be questions. I think there's some sort of a link in some sort of in the chat, I think, or something like that.
Yes, I'm just going to cut in briefly to say that if you wish to submit your questions, there's a link in the chat where you could do so. But if you type in your questions into the chat directly on YouTube, we will try to get to those as well too.
Cool. And just by way of, so I'm the general passenger agent here at the Wiscasset, Waterville, Farmington. I'm talking to you from our boardroom, which is our Percival house. I think it would be, I'd be remiss if I was just going to talk briefly about the WW&F and not mention Harry Percival. Harry Percival, this was his retirement home before he passed. But that's the end of the story. The beginning of the story was when he was a boy, and he saw them ripping up the Wiscasset, Waterville, and Farmington in the 1930s. And he made himself a boyhood promise that someday he was going to rebuild that railroad that he saw them ripping up. And he never gave up on that dream. He just kept going at it. And when you look at people who are saving motor cars and all this stuff that things that are just you see like it's unobtainable, right? Or build a T1, right? All these incredible things that are going on in rail preservation. They start with dreams. And so Harry had this dream to rebuild the railroad, and in 1989, probably before many of you guys were born, Harry started rebuilding it here, and now we've effectively rebuilt the Wiscasset, Waterville, and Farmington, and enjoy that success. So anyhow, don't give up on dreams. That's I guess if I could have an overall arching theme, because everyone was a little boy, a little girl who saw you might have had that trade experience and said, wow, I want to do that, and you can make it happen. And, I've made it happen. So why can't you? How I got started was a place that nobody has ever heard of, the A&D Railway Village in Middleborough, Massachusetts. It was a private, kind of like people who are familiar with Toy Train, the Choo Choo Barn in Pennsylvania, or Roadside America, that sort of an attraction. It was a collection, a private collection by a guy by the name of Adolf Arnold. He's in that photo there. He's at the controls of his master layout there. He was just a wonderful, gentle soul. The story was he never had toys when he was a kid, and growing up in Germany under a different Adolf. So he was able to come to America and had this massive toy train collection that he shared publicly for a number of years. And about where he's standing in there, and that photo is about where I was sweeping the floor when I was a kid. So I started sweeping floors at a no-name railroad attraction that closed 5 years later. So don't think that you don't have, you can't start from nothing, okay? Or if that any task is beneath you, because you have to just start somewhere, and I was fortunate that this guy was able to let me come in on a weekday afternoon when my dad was able to bring me, because of course I couldn't drive and all that stuff. So, so a shout out and a memorial to any of the people who have mentored me and mentored any of us along the way, right? Especially those who are no longer with us. So anyhow, so that's how I got started. My first time volunteering for anything rail preservation. And a few years later, I got involved at the Wiscasset, Waterville, and Farmington. Yeah, I was a young 20-year-old guy at one time too. My gut is that, well, the first time I ever came here was 1994. My daughter Emily, who's in the center of both of those photos, was not quite yet born when my then wife Michelle, on the right of the photo that's on the left, she and I were vacationing up here in Maine, and we hadn't, just by a whim, I found out that, down the street from where we were camping, there was this new train attraction of some sort. So we went and checked it out, and nobody was here, and you could see one end of the track from the other. So again, you start from nothing, in 1994, and the Railroad Museum had started in '89, right? So just 5 years, all they had down was, I don't even know, maybe 100 feet of track and the outlines of some buildings. But, I got the sense that this was a special place. And so I started keeping an eye on it, at first, basic websites, and then, before the advent of any sense of social media. But anyhow, then I got to come up one time and take a train ride, and the gentleman there on the right, on the picture on the right, Bob Kavanaugh, he was the conductor that day, and he immediately took a liking to my daughter Emily and myself, and just welcomed us with open arms. And I signed up for a membership, and eventually started volunteering, and and here I am 20 some odd years later, chatting with you all about all of this. So that's a little bit about my background and how I got started. How might one get started today? Um, there's always hangarounds, right? There's always people that are kind of hanging around our museum, and I imagine I remember hanging around railroad yards. Shout out to the Conrail conductor at Norwood Central in 1978 or something that picked up a kid who was at the platform and took him for a train ride down to an industrial spur, right? I have no idea who that was, but man, did he make an impression on me to be able to do that. And a lot of people wouldn't do that today, or So these are couple of guys that hang around here quite a bit, and a couple of brothers, and here they are. They're just that's a spur track that they're standing on. Yeah, they're standing on the rail, but they're observing from a safe distance, watching the action. And I know the guy in the green shirt. His name's Sal. Sal can be a handful from time to time, but he hangs around. And when we have a chance, hey, we're gonna go put the train away. You want to ride while we go through the yard? Yeah, all that sort of stuff. So hang around safely. Keep your distance. Don't do like they are standing on the tracks, but at least become aware of who's there and that such. And if there's one kind of tip, and this one took me a long time to catch, which was develop situational awareness. It's subtitled this Lessons Along the Tracks. I remember one time I thought I knew about trains. When I started volunteering at the WW&F, I knew an awful lot about trains, but I didn't know anything about railroading. It's a whole different thing. And so, everybody kind of intuitively knows, okay, trains are wider than the tracks, but they are a lot wider than the tracks. It doesn't matter the gauge, 2-foot gauge or standard gauge or wide gauge or whatever it is, it's going to be wide. So just be aware of your surroundings. Expect a train on the track at any time. All that sort of stuff. Learn not to step on rails. Learn to just be aware of your surroundings, and not only trains but equipment and people and that sort of thing, so that when you're hanging around, even if you're peering over the fence just a little bit, right, you're doing it in a safe manner, and people will notice. People do notice that stuff, and then hey kid, you want to go for a ride? And off you go. What can you do as a volunteer? Well, you can do anything, and you should do anything and everything. So remember Emily? Well, Emily's grown up now, and she's older than that now. And here she is working on the track, some tracking with Joe Fox is the guy in the red. You probably wouldn't recognize him, but Joe is he's now a engineer and trainman for CSX. Formerly Pan Am up here in Maine. Let's talk about Joe. I didn't even think about this, but where Joe is standing and where Emily's working on the track there is our mountain extension. And that was a 3/4 mile extension that we put on the railroad about 5 years ago. And if you were to walk this area 5-6 years ago where they're standing, you'd have a hard time getting through the brush, and you'd be having to navigate washouts and all kinds of terrible things. Just a railroad that had been abandoned since 1933. And it's not like East Broadtop where the rails were even still there. It was nothing. So we had to cut all the limbs and that sort of stuff. Well, let's back up a little bit further. Let's back up about 25 years. Joe was maybe 15, 16 years old at the time. And Joe and I walked from what was then the end of track. We walked down down to just out of sight there is Trout Brook, whereas we've got a bridge and all that stuff. But back in those days, after navigating all of this woods and former roadbed, you get to this clearing, and there was where a bridge used to be. And the joke was every once in a while we'd go back and go and check and make sure that the bridge still wasn't there. So Joe and I went on a trip to hike to see where the bridge wasn't. And he said, someday, Ed, like I said, he was in high school at the time. Someday, Ed, I want to go and work for Conway Scenic, and maybe I'll even get to work for a Class 1 railroad. And I'm like, Joe, go for it. You can do that. Well, Joe worked for Conway Scenic, which is one of the premier tourist railroads in New England, if you're not familiar with it. And then off to Pan Am, which of course became CSX when they bought out Pan Am not too long ago. So again, you can do this. You can get involved and you can learn, and you can, if you want to be a career railroader, you learn that sort of stuff. You just have to be open to whatever's going on. Don't be afraid when they ask you, okay, can you push a broom, or clean a tube, or name whatever task you don't feel like doing. Do it, do your best, and then go above and beyond, like Emily is there. I don't know how well that's coming through on the feed there, but she's midair trying to check track. Again, probably not the safest way to do it, but she's having fun, and she's obviously going above and beyond. So what to do when you come to volunteer? Stuff to bring: gloves, work boots, work clothes, change of clothes. Yeah, I learned that one the hard way along the track. Yeah, bring an extra set of clothes, extra set of underclothes and overclothes, bug spray and sunblock. If you're working outside, you're not used to that, you got to have that stuff. Some places provide water, snacks, lunch. Some places don't. Have that sort of stuff. I have a conductor's kit, and in my conductor's kit, I always keep a little snack bar just in case. I'm stuck somewhere and I'm need some nourishment. So don't be so have that stuff. Stuff to leave behind. The phone. And camera equipment, that sort of stuff. There's times and places to do that stuff, right? But when you're setting up to volunteer, especially when you're getting started, to have the phone and that distraction and say, oh, I want to live stream this, I want to put this on Facebook, or the Discord channel, of the whatever. No. Keep it at bay, right? Extra stuff, your keys, pockets of crap. I keep all my crap in my car. So that I don't have that. Again, it's just extra junk when you're. And again, if you've never done this stuff before, you don't want to have unnecessary things with you. Tools. I've seen people show up with tools. I've shown up. When I was started. Oh, I want to bring my dad's hammer, right? No. Unless somebody asks you, hey, do you happen to have a hammer that's capable of doing this? Oh yeah, sure. Bring it. Right, or maybe that might not necessarily apply to places that are just getting started. When maybe you need to bring tools, but check first, right? Just check first before you start bringing stuff. Model trains, leave them in the basement. You want to take it, you want to put it on the pilot, you want to take a picture. Yeah, no, you're going to end up breaking it, and then nobody's happy. Again, like at first, I don't have any here right now, but sometimes people will bring in models. But this is where I'm sitting is a little more controlled environment. Like I say, it's our kind of board area and kitchen, and it's not. This is not generally a public space. So anyhow, leave that at home. Personal items, your personal artifacts, whatever. My grandfather's lantern with his, again, it's just going to become a distraction. Again, at first, right? Over time, in which you may develop these relationships and so forth. Yeah, we want to see your grandfather's lantern or your great grandfather's conductor's cap or whatever. But yeah, just keep that at bay, at least at first, right? How to behave. Again, these are things that either I've done and I'm guilty of, or I've seen done. Was there anything? So the photo there was of that's of cab of, I think that's number 9. No, locomotive number 10 in the cab there. So just the tools to bring, right? Okay. How to behave. There's Cody. He's our Cody started volunteering here when he was 8, 10, something like that. Now he helps out in the gift shop, and he's beaming with pride because he's got the first ride in our restored boxcar 56, which is now we do a hobo experience out of. So because it's as you can see, it's got these windows for livestock use is what it was used for on the Bridgeton and Saco River Railroad. So we use it for limited kind of fun passenger service, but style of a hobo. Anyhow, when you're here volunteering or volunteering wherever, resist the urge to foam. Yeah, we all want to do it. Yeah, oh look, a train. Yeah, got it right. But again, develop that situational awareness and all that sort of stuff so that over time. Does it ever get old? I'll be honest with you. No, it doesn't. When the train goes by or whatever, and you just get to sit back and say, yeah, that's cool. But just try not to just wander off foaming or whatever. Once you have started and hey, new volunteer, hey, we want a cab ride? Be grateful for those experiences, right? But don't, and if, then a fireman lets you ring the bell. Oh my goodness, yay, cool, right? But then next time you come, don't expect a cab ride and don't expect to ring the bell because maybe the guy was having a good day that day and the fire was perfect and, everybody's all well in the world. And today he's just having a lousy day. The fire is just terrible. And, so just, be grateful when you get those opportunities and don't expect them to always come, right? And there are always going to be times to be able to, hop. The times come up often enough to get in the cab or to ring the bell or, whatever. But just, don't always expect that special treatment, right? And kind of related to that is don't push the boundaries, right? Different mentors are going to have different comfort levels, especially around new volunteers, right? We want to be sure that people are doing things at their comfort level too, right? So just if somebody, just because one person said you could do it doesn't mean somebody else is okay with that, right? Especially like I say, when you're starting off. But on the flip side of that is do what you're asked to do, right? If you're I'm not going to cite who or where or whatever, but if I ask a new volunteer, hey, I got this thing that I need 20 photocopies of because I'm going to be handing them out to passengers. Do you know how the copier works? I think I can figure it out. Okay, go to the Percival house, make me 20 copies, right? And then 30, 45, 50 minutes later, guy's gone. I haven't seen him. I need the copies, but they're not done. Well, finally, I tracked down the guy, and he's like, "Oh, well, I couldn't figure out how to turn the copier on, so then I went off and took a train ride." Please don't do that. We asked you to do something. We want to engage you as a volunteer, and trains are cool, but if you can't get something done that we've asked you to do, just tell us so we can, we're going to start to depend on you. And related to that was don't leave unexpectedly. Avoid the temptation to wander off foaming. Yeah, I'll say I did that once. One of the first times I was volunteering here, I was given a task to power wash something, and I never used a power washer before, so I'm using this big old steam power washer thing, and and all of a sudden, and then the train pulls in the station, and the conductor calls out, "Hey Ed, we're going to go for a train ride. You want to go?" "Yeah, sure." Put it down and go. Well, I didn't shut the thing off properly. I didn't tell the guy I was working with that I was going to go for a train ride. So when I came back, there he is, and everybody at the WW&F knows Jason, right? Jason's looking at me like, "Ed, what happened?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry." You go, "Okay, get it. Just don't do it again." All right. So avoid that temptation, right? Yeah. Like I said, that was very early on when I first started doing stuff here. and be friendly with visitors and passengers. You're now the face of the organization. As soon as you become a volunteer, I can't speak for other railroads, but on our rule book, we make it very clear that our rule book is for employees, and all volunteers are employees of the railroad. So it's you're now that public face. People are going to be looking to you for where's the bathroom and everything else that goes on in a railroad museum. So be friendly and not, when you're trying to tell them where the bathroom is, don't piss them off. Be humble. It's two of the humblest guys I can think of here. James Patton is in the back on the left, and Pete Stevens is on the right. James was the first volunteer that I mentored, the first person I volunteered. The first day I volunteered here, he was my mentor. And we were machining a switch frog or points or something I don't think it was the points but I think it was part of the frog, or it was part of the guardrails for a switch in the railroad yard here, 30 years ago or whatever it was, 25 years ago. And James was machining it, and all I was basically doing is watching and squirting oil, for machinists. You can learn how to do that if I'm a computer guy, so this was like, whoa, this is neat. Sweep the floor, whatever, and then we had to go get a part on the other side of the railroad yard. We grabbed a flat car, a flat push cart, something like people that know standard gauge stuff, the same thing. It's just like a Fairmont flat car. And so we push it down the track, maybe, I don't know, 200 feet to put something on and then bring it back to the shop. I thought that was the coolest thing. Look, I'm pushing a flat car. This is cool. And went for a train ride and all that sort of stuff. So had just a great experience, right? Just like I said, and he's our treasurer. He's just one of the most humble guys I can think of. And Pete is Cody's dad from the previous slide, and just willing to do anything, right? He's relatively new. It was Cody that started volunteering here, you're bringing Dad along. Well, now Dad's well into it, and why he's willing. Both of these guys are willing to do anything. They're team players. Here's one: admit your mistakes, especially if you broke it. It is far better for anyone in rail preservation to find out that, okay, that tool got broke, it got by accident, whatever, than go to use it and discovering it broken, right? And this can actually get dangerous. If God forbid you have suppose you're out on the line and you run a switch. All right, you run through the switch, you've damaged the switch mechanism. Maybe it looks okay. Yeah, it looks okay. Yeah, it closes. Okay, fine. Do we have to tell the superintendent? Nah, let's not. Oh, big mistake, right? Because guess what? If just because you think it looks good doesn't mean that it is good, right? So don't, if you break something, take responsibility and just say that I broke it, right? And admit your mistakes. Heck, if you're not learning something new every day here, when you're volunteering, you're doing something wrong, because every time I step onto this property, I'm learning something new. Hey, tonight I learned about Discord and a whole new social media platform, so that's kind of cool. Related to that, accept criticism, look out for others. Like I said before, when I started, I knew an awful lot about trains. I could tell you every wheel arrangement. I could tell you the history. I was a tin plate Lionel collector guy, so I could tell you all about that world if you wanted. I know all about trains, right? No, I didn't know anything about railroading. I didn't know what it meant to safely get on and off moving equipment, what it meant to really have that situational awareness, how to give good, clear hand signals and all that sort of stuff. You'll learn these things over time and accept the criticism when you don't do it right. Not people in general. I can't speak for everyone, but everyone I know, we generally look out for each other. That's what we're there. We're looking out for each other. And if somebody makes a mistake, they'll call it out on them. Not out of hey, you screwed up, but it's really out of love. We want you to do this safely, because everyone is a mentor, right? It might when you get started volunteering, typically you'll get paired with a couple people or whatever on a particular project. But really look at everyone as your mentor. There's something to be learned from everyone. Interacting with fellow volunteers, there's Nick on the left and Bill on the right, and they're enjoying themselves over something. I'm not really sure what. I don't know exactly what they're so happy about, but clearly, when you interact with your fellow volunteers, I kind of hesitated to put this comment on the slide, but I think it's important. I know people here not everybody likes me. I'm not perfect, right? And I can speak in general terms. I heard one volunteer who I would have never, ever expected to hear something like this out of his mouth. I don't like so-and-so and so-and-so. It's, again, somebody who I would have never expected anyone to say anything negative about. I think he's such a blah, 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 and a and I'm like, whoa, okay, fine, good to know. And these are what I'd say two of the most unlikely people that I would ever think would say things like that. Have a feeling like that. But so if have those situations, focus on the work and the mission, not the people. You have to look past everybody's imperfect. Nobody's perfect. Sometimes people have bad days. Just get over it. That's the only thing I really can say. But reflective of that is when you have limitations and disabilities, don't hide them. Again, I don't want to speak to people's names, but if we had a younger volunteer, who occasionally will have a meltdown, and when that first happened, we didn't know as his mentor what to do. How do we deal with this? And had we known a little bit more in advance, we could have been able to say, oh, okay, at least we can expect this, right? Or whatever. And so don't hide, again, if a place is going to hold this sort of stuff against you, then it's a toxic environment. Get out of there. Say that much, right? But don't withhold information that's going to be helpful. It could be a medical condition. It would be very helpful to know, for example, gee, I've got a heart condition. Yeah, I want to do track work. Yeah, no, you want to kind of match those sorts of things, right? Leave politics and social issues at the door. We kind of here, I can't speak for other organizations, but here, that stuff stays in the parking lot over there. And occasionally when something happens, or something, don't try not to engage, right? Again, focusing on the people. We're all here, regardless of what we believe or where we've been or our background or our social economic conditions or whatever you want to put in there, right? We're here to preserve railroading. We're here to have this this railroad museum or tourist railroad or whatever, have this exist, right? If you're volunteering, you're doing it because you love it. You're not doing it because you're getting paid to do it. If you happen to be fortunate enough to be getting paid to do it, you're probably not getting paid to an awful lot to do it. All right. This is not something that people get into to make a lot of money. So, we're all doing this because we love it. Look at that, and then and set aside, differences. Don't discriminate. That again, I didn't want to put this on the slide. This is the hardest slide, by the way. I really was. This is stuff that's hard to talk about. But discrimination, yeah, it exists. Don't do it. Don't engage. But I'm going to put a thing. I'm guessing most of the people that are watching tonight are of that quote next generation that are going to be younger than 50 some odd. Don't discriminate the other way. Don't discriminate against the old guy, right? Because the old guy's got an awful lot of experience, right? Now he may be crotchy and he may be an okay boomer, but he's going to have a lot of great experience. One of our again, I'm not going to name names here, but one of the guys here, was a professional railroader, and he, can kind of come off crotchety every once in a while, especially when it comes around safety issues. But it's because he's seen stuff, and he doesn't want to see anybody get hurt, right? So take those people and treasure them, right? If you can, and look past the fact that somebody who's probably older than I am is probably more in tune with not making keeping things. PC or however you want to look at it, that's just, I don't want to excuse, I'm not excusing bad behavior. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that at all. But I want to say that, give these people a chance to share their wisdom. How to advance. So here's Dave Wiscasset. He's our president. He's pontificating at the back of a caboose. And again, that's on that mountain extension when they're just laying track. Anyhow, Dave, just like everybody else here, started at the bottom, and how do you get up in an organization? Okay, once you've gotten past the broom pushing stage and the hang around stage, and maybe you're doing a car host, or you're helping out in the gift shop or whatever. If you see it and you are qualified for an existing task, ask about it. Just because somebody is already doing something doesn't mean they're not overworked and would gladly give that task up. All right. Ask me about all the stuff I do here and how many things I'd like to give up. But it's just don't be afraid to say, hey, I'm actually good at, I want to learn about grant writing. Okay, let's use that for an example, right? And I know you already do your grant writing. Can I help? Yes, I would love you to help. Let me show you how to do this. And that could apply to any piece of equipment, any particular task, right? When you see a project that you see, old 97 is rusting in the boneyard, right? We should work on that. At least it's not. They need to restore it and run it on the main line, right? Take it another step further. How can I help with that? What can I do to see old 97 restored and running on the main line, right? And maybe start by scraping some rust. And learn how to do that, right? And or it could be learn how to do a fundraising campaign. Can you create a fundraising campaign that can save a locomotive over a long weekend from imminent scrapping? Yes, it can be done. We saw it got done down in Texas, and then the city pulled it out, the rug out from beneath it. But our community, when we bind together, we can do incredible stuff. But at any rate, and what does it take? It takes somebody. How can I help? How can I do that? Right. Related to that is trust the leadership. Right. If you've got leadership in any organization, trust what they've decided to do. Right. Maybe in old 97, there's a darn good reason why it's sitting in the boneyard. right? And maybe they can't even talk about it because it's tied up in some litigation or whatever. You gotta have to sometimes trust that your leadership is doing what's again. Take a step back. We're all here for the trains. We're all here to see this thing succeed, right? We're never going. It's very rare you're going to find people that are actively working against you. Moving forward, be an ambassador. Bring friends and family. You're now a recruiter, okay? Right. Shout out to Bryce there on the platform there. Bryce, he started. There's a picture of him with Emily when Emily and Bryce were both under 5, and it sits in our gift shop. They're playing in the mud together alongside the track, and anyhow, the now here he is, not only conductor here, he's a conductor on Amtrak. So he has moved forward, right? So bring people, get people involved, right? Don't publicly badmouth your organization, right? Man, does it get. We had an incident where somebody said something publicly here about a neighboring railroad museum. Turns out the president of that other railroad museum was either within earshot or heard about it. And it torpedoed a whole series of planned special events that we were going to do together in joint events, because one of our volunteers said something not kind about another organization. And this was before, and this isn't even social media, right? Don't be a cheerleader and a champion, right? For your cause, right? Don't say negative stuff, even if you don't think about it, if you don't think it's that bad, or you're even thinking, I have a saying, don't covet thy neighbor's equipment, right? Oh, well, we should have the box 10345 from the Tennessee and and because we can do it better. No, or it belongs here. No, it doesn't belong. All of this stuff we're just caretakers of, right? The equipment needs, if you want to preserve equipment, right? Don't worry about who owns it or where it's kept. Then take the next step. Get involved with that administration and leadership, right? Get on the board of directors. Man, you want to learn how the sausage is made, become a board of director. In many places, they want new ideas. They're dying for ideas. So bring that enthusiasm. If you think you might be able to do that, or write a newsletter article, or other things that you can get involved with the administration and leadership. Finally, don't forget, once you've gotten here and you're 50 some odd years old and you're old as a dinosaur, I'll go back to, there he is, Nick on the left. I was on a train crew with, it was Nick and a bunch of guys with his generation, and then a bunch of guys that are older than I am. There was a couple, just maybe one or two other guys that were older. It was basically mostly young guys on this train crew. And I said, gee, it was all these young guys on the train, which is great, and all that. And then the old guy in the cab, and I said, so what does that make me? Am I the oldest of the young guys or the youngest of the old guys? And Nick, without missing a beat, said, Ed, you're a dinosaur. So anyhow, pay it back, right? Welcome the next generation of railroaders. I'm so thrilled that I was able to share this time with you guys tonight to welcome you guys into the next generation. You might be buying, you can do that, when you get older, buying lunch, and so forth. I'm not gonna lie, when I brought up that slide of Adolph Arnold at the beginning, I get a little tear in my eye because of the kindness that he showed me. Show that kindness to others. Take pride in your railroad. And finally, at the end of the day, when we leave the railroad a little better and a little safer. That's from Steve Lennox, the retired roadmaster of the Wiscasset, Waterville, and Farmington Railway. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Casey. thanks, next generation. Let's have some questions.
Yes, let us. So, first one that I'm going to pull from the form, and again, if you want to ask questions for Ed, I encourage you to do so using the link that's in the top of the live chat. Our first one is this one. How do you keep younger volunteers engaged and interested with your organization/institution?
I'm going to take young people out of that sentence and answer it this way. You keep them engaged by keeping them engaged. It doesn't matter who or what or so forth. It's getting people involved, getting them plugged in, getting them into projects. Now, and again, this has nothing to do with age. It's at first it can be difficult. When a new volunteer steps on here, we don't know who you are. You might not fit in with our culture. You might not. You could be. Have. It's like, look at all this cool stuff that I could just. So there's always a kind of getting to know you period, right? And then and that's do you actually know how to do what you say you know how to do? Hey, I'm an expert welder. Well, yeah, great. We're not going to put you on the boiler right just yet, right? Let's see what you can do. And if somebody has mechanical skills or something like that, and what we'll do is we'll do a project. You'll give them a project that if they mess it up, it's not really going to be a big deal, right? And if they do it well, again, what did I say? Going above and beyond, doing your best, and say, oh, this guy really does know how to weld boilers. Okay, let's have him weld boilers, But I will admit, and I think this goes to any organization, it can be really tough those first couple weeks, months, whatever, to find that place to plug people in. There's a guy who shows up here almost every Saturday, and he's dedicated. He wants to get involved so badly, but we haven't found a good way to plug him in yet because of some of his social skills. I'll just be honest. So it's like, how do we do that? And sometimes it takes a lot of creative manipulation on the part of the mentors, and the board and the people that are trying to. We don't have a volunteer coordinator. We desperately need one. But whoever that person is to try to get people plugged in, it can be difficult. But the key is just keeping them engaged, getting something, trying what works, seeing what works, giving, and if something doesn't work, kind of move on.
Next question we have, and I think that your organization's a good example of where you've cultivated this. What is the best way to join the rail preservation groups that are available but not in the same state as you? Because you guys have a lot of folks that travel out of state to volunteer with your organization.
Yeah. I didn't even mention that. So when I started here, it was a 3-hour drive from my house to come up here each way. So that, I was at the point in my life where I could do that sort of thing, and I acknowledge that not always possible. If you want to get involved with a particular organization, say you think that, Indiana Rail Experience, I'm just going to pick them, is doing some great things out there, and you want to learn from Kelly Lynch because he interviewed Nick Ozark so gracefully on the Roundhouse, and you want to get involved with him. Okay, great. Reach out and look for ways that you can help remotely. There is a ton of stuff that gets done remotely. I actually probably log more hours, not on this campus, but on my house down the street. I've been working on a new website for our organization. I think Nick actually helped us a little bit with that. The hours that go into that sort of stuff, right? I would kill for somebody right now just to copy and paste stuff, right? But so you have to make yourself known and say, hey, I'm willing to do stuff. I'm willing to do anything. That's what it all, it comes down to. But I'm good at computers. Great. Can you do this? And I'm sure there are ways you can help remotely. Then over time, and we've seen this happen here. Once you've earned a level of trust, hey, this part needs to be machined. I have a machine shop at home with a little lathe. I can build this for you. I can machine this for you at home. Great, here, take this priceless artifact and go fix it, right? That stuff happens again over time. We've shipped stuff out to volunteers to do remotely, and then you never know what happens. Like father and son team started volunteering a couple weeks a year from Texas. They'd come up from Texas. Now they both moved to Maine. So anyhow,
Another question. I'm a high school junior looking to eventually get a job down at the Durango in Silverton. Are there any courses for high school or college that would be a good starting point for learning specific trades on the railroad?
ooh, well, certainly any of the trades, woodworking, metalworking, all that sort of stuff. That's going to help. Um, I'll go back to it takes a railroad to run a railroad. So you you can get involved at the Durango and Silverton or wherever, when you want to take that job, and you might not be on a train crew right at first. So you might end up working in the gift shop. So customer service skills, learning how to make change, right? All that sort of stuff. Those are skills that you never know what life is going to put at you when you go down the track, right? So I look back on the things that I learned when I was in high school and so forth. Okay, funny story. One of the worst years when I was in high school, or I think it was high school or college, early college, I had a hard time finding a summer job. I desperately needed a summer job, and I ended up cleaning bathrooms at a campground. Let me tell you, cleaning bathrooms is one thing. Cleaning bathrooms at a campground takes it to a whole other level, right? Okay, so put that in the background, 30 years ago or whatever it was. Um, just less than a month ago, somebody, one of our passengers guests said, "Sir, you might want to go check the men's room. There's somebody defecated on the walls." Like, great. Guess who's gonna have to deal with Mr. Taco Bell experience? And so that's what I did. And okay, it's what you do. All right. And that's you know, so learn. You never know what you're going to learn along the way. As far as courses, yeah, I think the coursework. If you wanted to get into civil engineering and that sort of stuff, um, our CMO here, Jason, he said he got his degree in mechanical engineering to feed his train hobby, and it very much has over the years. Um, and yeah, and in fact, shout out to Ryder, who just started at the Durango and Silverton, former volunteer at the Wiscasset, Waterville, and Farmington. He started there just a month ago. So yeah, it can be done. It can be done.
And I'm going to add on to that and say the most important thing you can learn is learn how to listen. Uh,
Mm.
if you, that is the number one thing, because I acknowledge for myself, I'm not a mechanically. I love trains, but I'm not mechanically inclined. So
Mhm.
I'm going to listen to anybody who can provide their experience and their expertise, and I'm going to take that in because there's so much I don't know, and I'm always going to be in that position. I'm always going to learn more. So that would be my tagline to what Ed has provided there.
Yes,
Uh,
absolutely. Be open to learning.
I think we have time for one more question. So I would let's see. What are your feelings about teaching the next generation, such as volunteer groups and age limits? I was a tour guide for a railroad museum, and many untrained lovers wanted to volunteer but were too young, age 17 and under, were sadly turned away. And I feel a golden opportunity was missed to help them grow their passions in preservation, teach them new skills. What can we do to encourage more youth involvement while maintaining safety and peace of mind for parents, staff, and those insurance companies?
Yeah, that's a good question. And yeah, I called out, some people, and you can tell our atmosphere here is, we allow people to get started young. What you don't see is that it's with parental supervision, direct, and it's also on a case by case basis, right? Where we we get to know the parent, we get to know the child, and we see how the child interacts under the parent. And we've had situations where we've said, this just isn't working. And usually they figure that out, though. Um, and, we have to sometimes say, this isn't a daycare. You don't get to drop your kid off and you let them go play trains in the yard. Um, it's tough, and not every organization is going to be open to that level. And we've actually got our hands slapped a couple times. We've learned that some of the stuff that we used to allow younger, under 17, age 17 under whatever, people do, to the things that we should not have let them do. And yeah, insurance and just regulations, state regulations. Somebody showed us once and like, you're not really supposed to be doing that. And like, oh, really? Oh, I guess you're right. So that's caused a little bit of trouble here, but it's about but it comes back to one of those earlier questions, right? Which was, how do you get people plugged in, right? And you have to find the areas that you can plug people in that are age appropriate. Again, if the organization is willing to do that, parental or adult supervision that isn't provided by the railroad, that's got to be paramount, right? And then again, over time, I called out Cody earlier, right? In the early days, Cody didn't leave his father's side. Now dad's off firing and Cody's in the gift shop or doing whatever, right? So we can there's ways you can find those balances. But I'm gonna and if that was the last question, I'm gonna close with this thought, right? I am personally animately against that the future of railroad preservation. I am absolutely against that lies in the hands of the young people. I'm going to say that again. I disagree with the notion that that railroad preservation lies in the hands of a younger generation. I believe that rail preservation can be actively done by the younger generation and can be actively a part of what it takes to build a railroad here in scenic Alma, Maine. It doesn't matter how old or how young you are, you can be a part of it. And I hope that the people that have been watching tonight can be a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining, Ed. It's been great to hear your perspective. WW&F, truly a treasure of rail preservation, and the work that you guys have accomplished over the past several decades is second to none. I give you guys a lot of credit, and know a number of folks from your team that you have something really good going up there. So I definitely encourage you, if you're not familiar with the WW&F, to check out their website, learn more about their public facing stuff as well as their volunteer opportunities, because they are the kind of place that will make it worth your while, even if you are only able to volunteer on occasion. with that said, it's been great to have you guys here for this conversation, and we will be announcing next month's speaker and time soon, but think first week of April is what we'll be looking at. And if you want to keep this conversation going, I saw some other great questions here that I thought we could have great conversation around this. If you're on Facebook, I encourage you to check out Ahead of the Torch. It is a Facebook discussion group dedicated to conversation around rail preservation. There's a lot of people who can talk to a lot of points there. So some of these questions would be great to have there. And we at Next Generation Railroaders are exploring ways to keep the conversation going through programs like this and other ways. If this spoke to you, you want to present, if there's other ways in which you are interested in becoming a virtual mentor, please reach out to us. Our website is nextgenrr.org. And at the very least, you can sign up for email notifications there, including when the next speaker is coming on. Thank you all for joining. Have a good night.
Nick, if I just could, one last thing.
Yep.
If anybody does have any specific questions, reach out to me on social media, Ed Lecuyer. I'm on Facebook, or info@wwfry.org is the email address for the railroad that gets to me. I'd love to chat about anything if anybody has any further questions or anything like that.
Thank you, Ed. Appreciate you being willing to answer further questions that way. And thank you for tuning in. Have a good night.